All right, guys, so today we're going to talk about your favorite thing in the world, the quadratic formula and the discriminant. So, quadratic formula, x equals negative b plus or minus the square root of, I'm holding off on that. I'm holding off on that because this b squared minus 4ac is something special called the discriminant. Okay? And the discriminant can tell us things. You may notice that if we took this part that is not under the radical, what do we have? We have x equals negative b all over 2a. And hopefully that should look familiar. The axis of symmetry, the formula to find the axis of symmetry. So you've got the formula for the axis of symmetry, the discriminant, put them together, we have the quadratic formula. Okay, back to our little orange piece here, the discriminant. It is under the square root, right? So let's remember, if we take the square root of something negative, what is going to happen? We're going to have an I in our answer, right? Okay, that means, and it's always plus or minus, so that means we will have two complex solutions. All right. If we were to take the square root of 0, suppose I have my b squared minus 4a and it gives me 0. Well, what's the square root of 0? It's just 0. And 0 is neither positive or negative. So we just have one real solution. And then there is a third possibility, which is that we are taking the square root of something positive. And if we take the square root of a positive number, we're going to end up with two numbers, a positive number and a negative number, and they're going to be real numbers or solutions. Okay? So there's three things that can happen under this radical here. Well, that's what the discriminant is all about. We can take the discriminant, and if we have a negative number, then that means we're going to have two complex solutions. If we have 0, it's just the 0. And then if we have the two real solutions, or if we have a positive. All right, so let's look at an example. If I have negative 3x squared minus 9x minus 10, and I want to know what is the discriminant and the number and types of solutions. So I have b squared minus 4ac. We have to remember where to get those numbers or letters. So remember standard form, ax squared plus bx plus c. So what's my b? Negative 9. Be careful, make sure that negative 9, is both squared. Minus 4 times the a, and what's our a? Negative 3 times the c. And what's our c? Negative 10. All right, so what do we have here? We have negative 9 squared, which is 81. Negative 4 times negative 3 is a positive 12, times negative 10 is a negative 120. And 81 minus 120, let's see, that's 1 from 10 is going to be 9, 8, 11, that's 30, negative 39. So this is the discriminant. And if I were to take the square root of this negative number, I'm going to end up with two complex solutions. Let's look at another one. I have 7x squared plus 10x minus 17 equals negative 9. So what I have to recognize here is that it is not set equal to 0. This is not the full equation here that I need to substitute. I have to get this 9 over here, and that gives me 7x squared plus 10x. Negative 17 plus 9 is negative 8. Okay, so for my b squared minus 4ac, I have my b value, which is 10. I have my a value, which is 7, and I have my c value, which is negative 8. So 10 squared is 100. Negative 4 times 7 is negative 28 times negative 8. All right, so now we have 100. Negative 28 times negative 8 is a positive 224. And when I add those together, I get 324. Now, this is a positive number. So if I take the square root of this number, I will get a positive answer and a negative answer. So I will get 2 real solutions. Now we're ready to talk about using the quadratic formula to find those solutions. So the first thing we want to do is make sure it's solved for 0, like we said before, so that we know our A, our B, and our C. And then we'll remember the formula is x equals negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. So I'm going to plug in. So negative b is negative 5. So be careful. Make sure you have both of those negatives. Plus or minus the square root of b squared. Make sure that it is in parentheses because we want to make sure we square the negative 5, not just the 5. Minus 4 times a times c. So what is my a? 6. And what is my c? Negative 10. And then that is all over 2 times a, which again is 6. Okay, so what do we have? Simplify some stuff. We have negative negative turns to positive 5, plus or minus the square root of all this stuff. So that's 25. That's a negative. 4 times 6 is 24, so that's a positive 240 plus 25 gives me 265, and that's divided by 12. Okay, so let's take a look at this 265. How can I simplify that? 265. I got 1, 265, 5, and 53. And that is it. And none of these are perfect squares. So this means that our answers are right here. We have 5 plus the square root of 265 divided by 12, and we have 5 minus the square root of 265 divided by 12. All right, let us take a look at number 4 example. First of all, 9x squared, I'm subtracting the 3x here, plus 7 equals 0. Make sure you do the proper subtraction so that you can get the right answer. So we have negative b plus or minus b squared minus 4 times a times c all over 2a. So my a is 9, and my b is negative 3, and my c is 7. All right. So again, I have this negative negative, which becomes a positive 3, plus or minus 3 squared is 9, minus 4 times 9 is 36, times 7, we get a negative 243. All right, we have a negative. So right now I know I'm going to have two solutions with I in them, two complex solutions. And all of this is over 18. So I'm going to take this negative 243 and see what I can do with it. So I've got 1 times 243, 3 times 81, and I'm going to stop there because I have 81, and that's a perfect square. So I'm at 3 plus or minus the square root of negative 1 times 3 times 81 divided by 18. So I have 3 plus or minus. The square root of negative 1 is I. The square root of 3 is stuck. The square root of 81 is 9. And that is divided by 18. Now, if I look closely, I will see that my coefficients / constants are all divisible by 3. So I can simplify this. So I have x equals 3 divided by 3 is 1, plus or minus 9 divided by 3 is 3, I times the square root of 3, and 18 divided by 3 is 6. Here are my two solutions. All right, x equals negative b is 8, plus or minus the square root of b squared, that's 8 squared minus 4, times a, which is 4, times c, which is negative 5. And that is divided by 2 times a, which is 4. All right, here we have a negative 8, plus or minus. 8 squared is 64. 4 times 4 is 16, times the 5. This gives me 144. Divided by 2 times 4, which is 8. And I like this because I know what that is. The square root of 144 is 12 divided by 8. So here's what happens. You don't stop here because these are just numbers. Negative 8 plus 12 divided by 8, and negative 8 minus 12 divided by 8. So negative 8 plus 12 is 4 divided by 8 is 1/2. Then we have negative 8 minus 12, which is negative 20 divided by 8, which simplifies to negative 5/2. So what are my solutions? 1/2 and negative 5/2. You may not like the quadratic formula, but if you are having trouble with factoring, the quadratic formula will work with everything. You can't always factor, but you can always use the quadratic formula.